Hi, I'm Larry Kolasa, founding president of the National Spasmodic Dysphonia Association. Well, my journey probably started in my early 30s, and everybody goes back and tries to find a trigger, and mine was a upper respiratory infection, and after that I seemed to have some difficulties that I couldn't quite get a handle on. They got worse, and my toughest challenge was reading to my kids at bedtime. And you would think, gee, that should be a very relaxing time, but I struggled. And after probably 4 or 5 years of struggling and not knowing what was going on, I finally sought medical help. There was a physician who lived across the street from us, so I went over and talked to him, and he referred me to an otolaryngologist at our local hospital, William Beaumont Hospital. I saw him. He did the full exam, and he said, "I can't see anything, but why don't you go down and see the speech pathologist, Dr. Michael Rolnick?" So I marched downstairs and met Dr. Rolnick, and he didn't tell me this at the time, but he knew immediately what I had. So I was very fortunate in the fact that when I sought help, I was diagnosed probably within a month of the time that I first sought help. So I met with Dr. Rolnick. He put me on voice rest for a while, went back, and he said, "No, I think you have at that time, it was called spastic dysphonia," which grated me. I didn't like that term, spastic, and we changed the name. But anyway, it was such a relief because so many people, and especially my wife, thought that I needed psychiatric help. And I didn't think I did, but so getting the diagnosis was, as I said, a relief. And I know over the years now that everybody has that same sensation. So at the time, the only treatment available was the lysis of the recurrent laryngeal nerve, and I had that done. And after a period of breathiness after surgery, and with some vocal exercises and speech therapy, I got my voice back, and I had a great voice for about 9 months. And I can remember exactly where I was. My wife and I were in a limousine in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, going from the resort to the airport, and I felt that first spasm come back. So that was 79, so that would be 1980. And from that point until Botox in 1989, I had to live with what I had. I learned of a support group in our area. I think it was late 1986, maybe early 1987. And it was very difficult for me to attend the support group meetings because I was functioning, not always well, but I had conducting my business and doing the best that I could. And there was some people in the support group that were way worse off than I was. And it was quite a shock to see how these people struggled. And there were 2 ladies in the support group who went to New York for this new Botox therapy. And they were almost illegible, or you couldn't understand them before they went. They came back and both could speak. Not perfectly, but they could be understood. I thought, wow, this sounds great. So I talked to my wife, and I thought, I'll go to New York and get this done. Well, an angel came into my life. I get emotional. Dr. Dan Trong came to our support group meeting, and he came with the license to do a double-blind study. And he wanted to recruit 10 people. 5 would get Botox, 5 would get a placebo. And my wife was with me at the meeting. She said, "Are you interested in this?" And I said, "Yeah, but I don't want to get the placebo. I want the real thing." And so she got on the phone and called his office every day until finally they relented and allowed 2 of us to get Botox before the study started, a man and a woman. I was the man. And so we met at the hospital, and Dr. Trong and my otolaryngologist, Dr. Rontel, who had done the surgery, the license of the recurrent laryngeal nerve, and Dr. Trong's nurse assistant were all there. And it's one of those things that's still burned into my brain because I can still see their faces as they used a grease pencil to make marks on my neck and throat, and then did the injection. They did both sides, even though one of my vocal cords is paralyzed. And that was it. So I went home, and later that day, Dr. Trong called me and said, "I think we gave you too much." He said, "You're going to get very breathy." He said, "But don't worry about it. It'll come back." So I said, okay. The next morning, I knew it was working, and I felt really good. But as the day progressed, the breathiness came on, and I had a period of about 6 weeks of breathiness. Everybody was very concerned. I was not, because I knew this stuff would work, and we just had to tune it up a bit and get the right dosage. So through a series of decreasing amounts, I started with 10 units in each vocal cord, and currently, and for probably the last 28 years, I've been getting 1/3 of 1 unit in one vocal cord, and I'm blessed that it works so well for me. In fact, I've been called an imposter. At meetings, people don't believe that I have spasmodic dysphonia. My wife is obviously a special person, and she's been very supportive. My family, especially Pam, has never wavered and never objected to anything that I've done, because I've put a lot of time into the organization that, maybe I should have spent time at home, but Pam always understood, going to meetings and symposiums, and oftentimes she's even, joined me at the symposiums, and she's neglected the whole time she's there, but puts up with it. So, I'm a lucky man. Well, this disorder, I'm sure, has ruined a lot of careers. I didn't let it ruin mine. I was with a life insurance company, and the medical director of the life insurance company called me one day and said, maybe you shouldn't be an insurance salesman. Maybe you ought to find some other form of work. And that ticked me off. I hung up thinking, no, I'm not going to let you do this to me. So I struggled, but I was able to function. I did pretty well. The telephone was my biggest enemy, because we get a visual image of somebody on the phone. They sound different on the other end, and you start to worry what's the deal, and I learned to sense that right away. Or I would get questions like, are you okay? Are you sick? Are you drunk? And I learned to say, I know I sound bad, but I look great. That usually gets a little laugh or a chuckle, and then people either want more information, or the tension was broken and I could proceed with my business. So I did that, and I learned that I had to stay in shape physically, because talking all day, as a salesman especially, wore me out. So I was a runner, but I really kind of kicked it into another gear and started doing marathons. And the interesting thing is when I was running, my voice was good. And so I over the years, I've completed 38 marathons. I don't do it anymore, obviously, but that helped me through that period until Botox came. And Botox was, kind of lit a fire under me. It kind of rejuvenated me in my business life. And so, I've been blessed that it does work so well for me. It doesn't work as well for everybody. I mean, most people get relief from Botox, but mine is such that if I don't tell my wife I'm going to get an injection, she doesn't even know. So that's how lucky I am. My advice to people who have SD is join a support group. Talk to other people who have SD. Support groups are always challenged to keep members coming to meetings, because people get what they need, they leave, and we don't hear from them again. And support group leaders take that personally. They think it's a failure. I say it's a success. You help that person, they've gotten on with their lives. But but ask for help. You know, and there are a lot of people. Our organization is great. Ask, and there'll be somebody there to help.